The real cause of the problem here is, of course, a transport issue. Claremont Road will now just become part of a 3 3/4 mile link road joining the M11 at Redbridge to Hackney. Marcel Theroux has been looking at the wider issues involved.
Work continues on the £200 million M11 link road at Wanstead in spite of the upheaval at Claremont Road. When it's finished, the 6.5 kilometre carriageway will run from the A102 in Hackney to the Redbridge roundabout at the start of the M11. The Department of Transport insists it's necessary to speed up traffic and relieve pressure on the residential streets in the area which drivers use as rat runs. Ironically, Claremont Road is just such a residential street. Some of the Link Road supporters say it may even bring more business opportunities to the area. But other transport experts think expensive road building projects like the Link Road could be a thing of the past.
I think everybody has come to the view that building large-scale schemes in central London is not the way forward. There's been a long history of attempts, and they have on the whole been rejected. They are politically unacceptable and too expensive, and not the best way of solving the problems.
The alternative is a mixture of policies to speed up traffic on existing routes and encourage people to make use of public transport. The first glimmerings of this were seen in the new budget, which scaled back money for new roads. If the government follows through, there may not be many more new projects like the M11 Link Road to protest against. Marcel Theroux, Channel 1, Central London.
Part of the controversy here has been the role of the police. The sheer numbers as well as the cost have prompted a number of questions.
The bailiffs move in. Above them, jeering protesters. There are few direct confrontations in this war of attrition. Just long periods of waiting. But between the court-appointed officials, whose duty it is to clear Claremont Road, and the ragtag army of demonstrators, there's another force in evidence. So far, it's the police role in the saga of Claremont Road that has raised most questions.
You see, for a start now, look, you've got the police up there when it should be sheriffs.
Others say that by cordoning off Claremont Road, their show of force is just that, show.
I think the police have put on a bit of theatre for us today. They've carefully controlled what both the press, legal observers and independent people have seen of today. They've allowed people selective views of what's happened, but they haven't shown us the whole picture, and I'm very worried about that.
Police insist they're here to keep the peace, though senior officers are concerned about the price.
I can tell you roughly, I anticipate the wages cost, if you like, alone for today will probably be about £1/3 but that's only a rough estimate.
Time and money much needed in other quarters.
And they could be better employed elsewhere, catching burglars for them.
There is even an historical precedent at work.
It's a medieval concept that the sheriff is taking possession of the land on behalf of the Crown, and the police have no role in this apart from preventing a breach of the peace.
But for the officers themselves, it's a very modern dilemma.
Now, we cannot afford in London to have mass demonstrations of public disobedience that has to be policed. We haven't got the police officers available. And that's why I say the Home Office guidance has got to give a little. At the moment, it seems to be alienating certain members of our society. I don't think any legislation was intended to do just that. I think that the people that the legislation was aimed at will attract amongst those people that shouldn't be drawn into the criminal process.
And with the new Criminal Justice Act just off the statute books, it's a concern that is unlikely to end at Claremont Road. Robert Sullivan, Channel 1, Leytonstone.
Around here, local people have watched the battle being fought out. But what do they really think? Paul Lewis has been asking them.
Grove Green Road has seen quieter times. Over the last couple of days, residents here have had to remind themselves of that. It's not just the hundreds of policemen, journalists, bailiffs and security staff camped outside their front doors. They've only been there a day or two. It's the noise and disruption caused by some of those demonstrating against the road building. They've been there now for months, and those living in Grove Green Road have had enough.
Been awful.
Why?
Terrible. The noise, the pollution. It's these past 6 months or 8 months been unbearable with these squatters.
Whatever they think of the road building, those in the street say that it's the demonstrators themselves who are the main problem. Caroline Knowles can watch them battle it out with the bailiffs from her front room. She says the neighbours fear for their safety.
Most people on this road would be glad to see the back of them over there, really, because the lady next door, she's frightened, and the other lady next door are frightened. Most people are frightened of them.
The irony is, Mrs. Knowles and many in the area have a lot of sympathy with their fight. Dolly Watson has lived in Claremont Road, the street now occupied by the demonstrators, all her life. Now, at 93, she's had to move to make way for the road. She has nothing but praise for the protesters.
They will be defeated, I'm sorry to say, one of these fine days, but at least they're making a fight for it. They're making a fight for it in every way. I couldn't fight in the way they're doing it because I'm an old woman.
Dolly talks nostalgically of her old home.
I was born there. I was born, and of course it's got memories to go through my own personal experiences. Been through 2 world wars, and we still stuck to the little house because it was nice and compact. And of course, as time went by, it wasn't particularly modern, but we didn't mind. And we had that nice open space in front of us, which a lot of people hadn't got.
Yesterday's confrontations between demonstrators and police in Grove Green Road were undoubtedly important. But in all the drama, those trying to live normal lives in their own homes shouldn't be forgotten. Paul Lewis, Channel 1, Leytonstone.
It's not just the numbers of police and bailiffs involved, but it's the way they're dressed which has got people talking. Many seem to have just come off the set of RoboCop, as Richard Vagg now reports.
The swagger of riot police, their Batman-style utility belts packed with every means of restraint. They've become an increasingly familiar sight at trouble spots, replacing traditional police uniforms that the Met now deem inadequate for the job. At the M11 showdown, it's the bailiff's turn to adopt that stormtrooper look. They've forsaken suits and overcoats for aggressive-looking all-in-one uniforms with bailiffs and even sheriff's office emblazoned across them. Fashion expert Professor Ted Polymus has just opened an exhibition on street style at the Victoria and Albert Museum. He says the new uniforms are a worrying trend among officialdom that could backfire.
I find, looking at these images, that it seems to me that Brave New World is upon us here, that we are seeing dehumanized people. We have these all-black sort of RoboCop outfits that are worn by the police themselves. We have these yellow-coated security guards, and we also have a group of sheriffs that what I think they are supposed to be is bailiffs, but with not only a new image but with a new name as well. It's very futuristic, and it's probably extremely intimidating to the demonstrators, but I'm afraid it's going to also be intimidating to the average British viewer. In a sense, the only human element left is in this is in the form of the demonstrators wearing their travellers and other yes, scruffy, but certainly real and warm and human style of dress.
With the impact of the criminal justice bill likely to mean more clashes between authority and demonstrators, Professor Polymus believes police and officials should be wary of the threatening message their uniforms may convey. Richard Vagg, Channel 1, Leytonstone.
At the moment, the police are continuing with their softly approach with the protesters. They're allowing them to stay up in the scaffolding for another night. Later on this evening, diggers moved in and they've been demolishing some of the houses in the first step towards flattening Claremont Road. With that, it's back to you in the studio, Gwen.
And we'll be back after the break with more news.